My first guest tonight is a seventh-generation Tennessean. He's also the 50th governor of this great state. Under Governor Bill Lee's leadership, Tennessee has been named the #1 best fiscally managed state in the country. And it's been named as having the best business climate in the United States, #1 in the nation for advanced industry job growth, and the best state for small business growth. Pretty good record, wouldn't you say? Would you please welcome to the show someone who knows a thing or two about how to run a government, Governor Bill Lee.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I get the impression that there's about 84% of the people, at least here, who love you and happy to have you here, and we are too.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
There has been an unbelievable number of people moving into Tennessee. I mean, this state is on fire with growth economically and otherwise. What is it that you're doing that's causing this state to attract so many people like a magnet?
Well, you know, fiscal policy is one thing. We're the third lowest tax state per capita in America. We have no income tax in this state, which is an incredibly important thing to folks. So we have very low taxes. We have a very friendly business environment that we've created. I'm a business guy, and I know that jobs change lives. Mm-hmm. So when we can create an environment that produces economic prosperity, that's good. And people want to come to those kinds of states. There were only 7 states in the country that had positive economic returns from April 2020 to April 2021, and Tennessee was one of them.
Well, I was looking at some of the companies that have relocated to Tennessee, and there's a bunch of them, big names, big, huge multinational corporations. It's high tech, it's medical. This is one of the great medical centers of the world.
That's right. And we've focused really heavily on creating a workforce that's attractive to companies. The first thing, I've gone from Korea to California, especially in California, recruiting companies, and they want to know, do we have the people here to work? When I came into office, so my background is in skilled trades, mm-hmm. plumbing, pipe fitting, welding, electrical. We passed the Governor's Investment in Vocational Education Act, so we have made a big push in the state to change the way high school looks, to give kids that have the gift of connecting their brain to their hands more opportunity. And that is...
I am so glad that somebody understands that people who work with their hands not only do a noble job and get paid really well for it, right. But they do jobs that'll never get outsourced to China.
That's right. And I worked alongside, By the way, in Tennessee, we just, I did a ribbon cutting just this week for the only manufacturer that is now in America of antibiotics. It's called U.S. Antibiotics, and they're bringing that back to Tennessee.
So glad to hear that. China doesn't need to be making our medicine, that's for right. sure. You did not come into politics from a lifelong career of politics. You were in business, very successful at it. You didn't need this job. Why did you leave the comfort of the private sector where you could do what you wanted to do for the scrutiny of public office?
Yeah. You know, I love my life, and I love my life in private business. But I had a tragedy in my life some 20 years ago that changed my perspective on my own life and on what mattered and what didn't matter. And I got very involved in, besides my work, which is incredibly important, I got really involved in nonprofit work around the world with my kids in Haiti and Mexico and Africa and the Middle East. But then I also got very involved in nonprofits at home. I mentored kids in the inner city. I mentored men coming out of prison for 20 years. I got involved in things that were important to me beyond just work. That led me to public policy work in government, and I started having interaction with the state and realized that maybe I could take my life experiences and the passions that I have and use them in a bigger way to serve the people of the state.
I also want to point out that you're a person who has been unapologetic in the expression of your personal faith. And I think that's so refreshing when a person in public life is not ashamed of being a believer and having an authenticity about faith. Were you ever sort of maybe encouraged, Governor, dial it down a little bit. Don't be so vocal about your faith. Did you ever have people try to tell you that would hurt you politically?
Certainly there's a lot of opinions about that, but my faith in Christ is the most important thing in my life. It will never change. And that'll never change. And that belief is what led me to the service that I talked about earlier, the nonprofits and the work. And it led me to believing that as a believer, the highest call in my life is to serve and to love your neighbors yourself and serve them accordingly. And that was part of the calculus that played into my decision to run. How could I use my life in that way? If that's the case, then not following that which is true and not being very clear and honest about what motivates you and what is the foundation of your life, that's not being honest with anyone. So I don't have any problem talking about it.
Well, I appreciate not only what you've done as a governor, an absolute exemplary service to the country, really, and it's a template that other governors, I think, can follow to how you've led this state. But I just appreciate the personal life of Bill Lee.
Thank you.
The authenticity, the fact that you're the same as a governor that you were in business, and that shows, and people see it, they respect it. Even the ones that disagree with it, they respect that. And I want you to know how grateful we are to have you here.
Thank you,
and to
sir.
have you the governor of the state where our show broadcasts every week.
Thank you, sir.
Governor, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.